In 2012, Jamie Vardy was working in a factory, making medical splints for £7.50 an hour, playing semi-professional football on weekends. At 25 years old, most would say his chance had passed. 4 years later, he was lifting the Premier League trophy, breaking records held by some of the greatest strikers in history. This is not a story about talent discovered late. This is about how one training method can completely rewire a player's brain and turn consistency into a superpower. Before we understand what changed, we need to understand the problem. Jamie Vardy was not a bad player. He had pace. He had work rate. He could finish. But in the lower leagues, so do thousands of others. What separated him from players who made it to the top? Not physical gifts. The issue was decision-making under pressure. Vardy would make runs too early, hold the ball too long, panic when defenders closed him down. His technique was fine in space. But football is not played in space. It is played in chaos. And this is where most players fail. Not because they lack skill, but because traditional training does not prepare them for chaos. They practice passing in lines, shooting without pressure, running without decisions. Useful for fitness, useless for thinking. Vardy needed something different. In 2011, Vardy signed for Fleetwood Town in the 5th tier of English football. The manager was a man named Mickey Mellon, and he did not train like other coaches in non-league football. Mellon believed in one principle above all else. Train how you play, not how you think football should look. How it actually feels when the game is moving fast and space is tight. So he threw out the traditional drills. No more passing in triangles with no defenders. No more shooting practice from static positions. Instead, every session became a game. Small-sided, high intensity, constant pressure. Vardy hated it at first, because it exposed every weakness, every hesitation, every poor decision. But that was the point. You cannot fix what you cannot see. Here is what the training actually looked like. For versus 4 in a 20-yard box. 2-touch maximum. If you lose the ball, you sprint immediately to win it back. No rest. No excuses. The space was so tight that players had no time to think. They had to scan before receiving, decide before touching, move before the defender could react. Vardy was forced to make 50 decisions in 10 minutes. In a normal training drill, he might make 5. This was not about perfecting technique. It was about training his brain to recognize patterns. Where is the space? Where is the defender's weight shifting? When do I move? At first, Vardy made mistakes constantly. Poor touches, wrong runs, bad decisions. But Mellon did not punish mistakes. He used them as teaching moments. Why did you hold it there? What did you see? Over weeks, something shifted. Vardy stopped thinking. He started reacting. The game slowed down in his mind. Not because he got faster, but because he had seen these situations 100 times in training. His brain recognized them instantly. This is the difference between a player who looks good in training and a player who performs in matches. Recognition speed. The results were immediate. In the 2011 to 2012 season at Fleetwood, Vardy scored 31 goals. The next season, Leicester City signed him for £1 million, a record fee for a non-league player. But the real test was still ahead. Could this method work at the highest level? In 2014, Leicester were bottom of the Premier League in April. Vardy had been inconsistent, struggling to adapt. Then the manager changed. Nigel Pearson brought in the same training philosophy. High-intensity, small-sided games. Constant decision-making under pressure. Vardy thrived. Leicester escaped relegation. The following season, 2015 to 2016, everything clicked. Vardy was not just scoring. He was making perfect runs, timing his movements with precision, reading defenders like he could see the future. In November 2015, he scored in 11 consecutive Premier League matches, breaking a record held by Ruud van Nistelrooy, one of the greatest strikers in Premier League history. By May 2016, Leicester won the Premier League, 5,000 to 1 odds. Vardy finished with 24 goals, joint top scorer in the league, from factory worker to champion in 4 years. So what actually changed? Vardy did not suddenly become more talented. He did not get faster or stronger. What changed was his ability to process information. Traditional training isolates skills. Pass, shoot, dribble. But in matches, these skills happen simultaneously while defenders pressure you and teammates move around you. Game-realistic training connects everything. It forces players to integrate scanning, decision-making, and execution under fatigue and pressure. Vardy's brain was trained to recognize when to check to the ball, when to spin in behind, when to hold his run for one more second. These micro-decisions separate good strikers from great ones. And they cannot be trained through repetition alone. They must be trained through recognition, through experiencing pressure repeatedly until the brain learns the patterns. This is why Vardy became consistent. Not because every match was perfect, but because his training had prepared him for every situation he would face. Jamie Vardy's story is not unique. It is a blueprint. Across football, the players who break through are not always the most talented. They are the ones whose training matches the demands of the game, whose brains have been trained to recognize, decide, and execute under pressure. This method works at every level, from grassroots to professional, because the principle is universal. You do not rise to the level of your talent. You fall to the level of your training. Vardy proved that with the right method, average players can become stars. Not through luck, not through hype, but through training that prepares the mind as much as the body. If this story changed how you see player development, hit that subscribe button. We break down the hidden methods behind football's greatest transformations every week here at Football Empire Lab. Thanks for watching.